going to focus this today on grains and bread in particular because I hear that more often than anything else. I can't live without bread. Well, listen to what I have to say today, and maybe you won't be interested in bread. Okay, you need to find out a little bit more about what you're eating, okay, and how they make it. Let me just mention too, if any of you saw this in the newspapers in the Monday health section of the Herald News about cook smart, eat smart. My name's on this because I'm responsible for it, but I just want you to know, so you don't think, you know, he's talking out of two sides of his mouth. These are recipes that we're teaching people how to cook by putting recipes on their smartphone. I don't know what mine is. And the whole point of that is to get people to cook at home. Okay, half of the population that we surveyed does not do any cooking. Okay, you cannot live successfully in today's world without doing at least some cooking. After you go through these 10 sessions, you'll understand why. Primarily because the food manufacturers are not our friend. They will put things in our food that shouldn't be there and that we shouldn't be eating. And they sell it to us and they make it taste good and we think everything's fine and it's not. Okay? So cooking at home is a critical skill. If you don't cook at all, find somebody you know who does and get together with them. Within a few hours, they will teach you the basics, so you'll know how to cut, chop, stir, saute, pour, measure, all those kinds of skills. Once you have that, then you can follow just about any recipe. And I've started to put recipes out there. And today, Katie Beth, you want to introduce yourself? Wave over there. Katie Beth worked with me last year, does a wonderful job. Been doing low-carb cooking and eating for years. And she's put together a sample of buffalo chicken wings, right?
Buffalo chicken dip.
Chicken stick, okay.
Dip.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. So she will be demonstrating that today for you and giving you a sample. Okay. And we'll have other people who will be coming in over the next few weeks doing different kinds of recipes. We thought the buffalo dip was key for the day before Super Bowl. Anybody having a Super Bowl party? Anybody going to a Super Bowl party? Anybody going to watch the Super Bowl? Okay. As we know, no holiday in America occurs without food. And I would just point out, and Katie will probably tell you, that one good thing about Super Bowl food is you can do it very nicely. Low carb, high fat. Okay, works out real well. Maybe your friends will wonder where the chips are or something like that if you don't have any of this. Okay, we're going to talk about grains today. As I say every week, I'm Dr. Weed, and I'm not a doctor. If you're on any kind of medication, particularly for diabetes or high blood pressure, before you start doing what I'm suggesting you do, you need to have a talk with your doctor or dietitian and tell them, because they may want to back off on your medication. In some cases, people eliminate their medication altogether just by changing what they eat. This happens all the time. The problem is if you're taking medication, assuming you're eating a lot of carbs, okay, so you ramp up your insulin or other diabetes medications, and then you drop your carbs, your insulin level's too high, and you're going to have problems, okay? So just keep that in mind. I'm not here to give you medical advice. I'm here to tell you about food, and you make up your own mind about, as you always do, unless, is anybody being force-fed? I always have to keep that in mind. Once you're past about 2, you're no longer force-fed, right? You get to choose what you eat, or whether you're going to eat what's in front of you anyway. So this is about our making choices. And in order to make choices, you have to know something, okay? If we simply eat A, what's in front of us, and total quantity in front of us, and B, what tastes good, okay? Our science has gotten really good at making all kinds of things that aren't good for us taste good. They're called edible food-like substances, okay? They're not food, it's edible substances. right? Those, you need to be able to make the distinction between real, unprocessed whole foods and edible food-like substances, so you can make your choices accordingly, okay? So no medical advice here. Just to review quickly, is this the first group for anybody here? 1, 2. Okay, real quickly, we'll go over this. That what we've been told is that fat is bad for us. To lose weight, you have to keep fat as low as possible. We've all been advised to eat low-fat diets and low-fat products. That if we eat fat, it'll raise our cholesterol and we'll die of a heart attack. And we've also been told that weight loss only results from reducing calories, the calorie in, calorie out balance. That's what Coca-Cola tells you. You can have a Coke, it's part of your diet, as long as you run 28 miles after you have that Coke. Okay? The only way to lose weight, therefore, is on a low-fat diet and increased exercise. Well, all of that is wrong, okay, plain and simple. It's not the way our bodies work. We're not thermodynamic machines, we're hormonal machines. What happens when we eat low-fat foods is that they're replaced by carbohydrates, in particular sugar. Take a look at any typical yogurt container. You'll see all the sugar that's in there. When we exercise more, you just exercised, right? What's going to happen in about 2 hours? You'll be starving, right? Exactly. When we exercise, it increases our calorie debt, okay? Our bodies want more food to replace the energy we just expended. So exercise is not a great strategy for losing weight. It's good for all kinds of things, but not losing weight, okay? Counting calories is always difficult. Try to manage, 2,300 calories and keep a count on that. And meals are rarely satisfying. In particular, because we've taken fat out, and we know that fat, first of all, we know that fat is not bad for us. If you look at the research, and I've got hundreds of papers on this, but if you Google, dietary fat, ignore the stuff that talks about low-fat kind of stuff, and look at some of the research in terms of cardiovascular research. No cardiologist today will tell you that dietary fat is the reason why people have heart attacks. They know it's refined grains and sugars, okay, which turn into body fat. It's the difference between the fat on your plate and the fat on your body. Okay, we unfortunately have the same word for both of them, and they're two different things. Okay, it's the fat in our body, in particular cholesterol in our arteries, that becomes the problem. You do not put the fat that you eat into your arteries, okay? It's not how it works. The fat in your arteries, the cholesterol, comes from digestion of dietary starches and sugars, which then your body turns into a particular kind of fat. You ever heard of triglycerides? You get those measured? That's the fat that circulates in your blood. And that one measure goes way up when you have carbohydrates, okay? So the fat that's in your body comes from carbs, not fat on your plate. It's very hard to get that across to people because we've been taught all the wrong things. When in fact we stop eating carbs and add fat, it forces our body to look for fat on our body, the fat in our fat cells, and burn that fat. That's why you lose weight on a low-carb, high-fat diet. Okay? It makes your body burn its own fat. And furthermore, when you have fat, you have satiety. In other words, you stay full longer. It takes 3 times as long for fat to digest as carbohydrates, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, which is why when I have an egg or 2 and some sausage in the morning, no toast, no sugar in my coffee, I'm not hungry until 12, 1, 2 o'clock, okay? Because that fat is still digesting in my system. That's why when you increase fats and lower carbs, you end up staying full longer and end up eating less, okay? You don't have to deprive yourself to eat less. You're just full. You don't want to eat anymore. Eat when you're hungry. Don't when you're not. Get this down. There we go. We're going to talk more about the particulars on fats, and I'm not going to go over this chart other than to point out that when you see down here that man-made trans fats are the biggest problem. Also vegetable oils, and we're going to have a whole session on why those are not good. Saturated fats, neutral. What does that mean in terms of cardiovascular disease? Saturated fats are no more harmful than anything else, okay? And you're going to see a lot on the internet and everywhere you go, but avoid saturated fat. Keep saturated fat down. Saturated fat is bad. Well, take a look at the evidence. It's not the case. The dean of the Tufts School of Nutrition Science and Policy, Darish Mozaffarian, who's reviewed my slides and said they're great, okay, will tell you that, and he's a cardiologist, okay, who's heading up the nutrition science program. He's the one that when there's a radio program on, they want to interview somebody about some dietary change, they go to Darish, because he's the man in terms of nutrition in the United States. And he'll tell you that saturated fats are no more harmful than anything else. There are studies that show that people who eat less saturated fat have more heart attacks, okay? So forget the saturated fat thing. We'll go over that some more in detail. Polyunsaturated fats, you'll see a lot on that, do decrease your heart disease risk, okay? Monosaturated fats, you get those largely in things like olive oil, also decrease cardiovascular risk. That's why cardiologist Mike Rocha over in New Bedford prescribes Mediterranean diets, foods full of olive oil, because it lowers your risk of heart disease. Fat lowers your risk of heart disease. Get that? That's not what you've been told for 40 years. Okay? And then finally, omega-3 fats that you find in all kinds of things. I just found this, show this to Katie, mackerel fillets. These were at Job Lot. You rarely see mackerel. Does anybody see mackerel? It's like sardines. Sardines are great. They have omega-3. Tuna's great. It has omega-3. Salmon has omega-3. Try mackerel. Okay. Yeah, I've never had mackerel. Right? All right? All these fatty fishes have omega-3, and we're going to talk, when we talk about oils, that's a very good fat for you. You need more of that and less of the stuff below it, okay? We'll get into fats in a while. So, that helps. We went over that. Excess carbs lead to weight gain because when you eat carbs that you don't burn or use for body heat or fuel, then that gets parked in your body as fat for future use. 10,000 years ago, when we went through periods of famine, good idea. You got excess, eat, put on some fat. You go through a cold winter and no good hunting, you burn your own fat, right? Good system. Only problem, we don't have famines anymore, right? Anybody been in a famine? Anybody know anybody been in a famine? I mean, it does occur in places in the world, very unfortunately. And that's not because we lack food in the world, it's because of political influences that keep people from getting the food that we have, okay? So famine essentially is no longer a factor in human existence, okay? We have enough calories. The problem is fat storage. And we're now living in a society where 2/3 of people are overweight or obese and end up carrying fat and having all kinds of problems because of that. So to burn the fat, you've got to get rid of the stuff that put it there, which is carbohydrates, okay, starches and sugars. Once you do that, even though you're eating fat to get energy, your body will burn its own fat. And that's the whole process here. We can talk about changing the food pyramid. I'm not going to go over that. But I do want to talk about grains for the next 15 minutes here. We're essentially omnivores. That means we can eat almost anything, right? And we do. And that's one of the reasons we survive as long as we have. Okay, we can live on, I hate to say it, but people in Aleppo were living on leaves and, boiling wallpaper paste and things of that sort. I mean, if you have no other source of calories, you can eat almost anything, right? which is good for survival. Not so good when you're in the kind of civilization we're in now, right? Where we do eat everything, okay, and lots of it, right? Unlike some animals that have to eat specific foods like pandas and koalas, eucalyptus leaves and bamboo, you know, if they don't get those two things, they die, okay? With us, we could eat either of those, I suppose, if we had to survive. So we're omnivores. And grains. Well, as I said last week, grains are very convenient because they can substitute for what? We started eating grains when we stopped doing what? Anybody remember from last week? Hunting, okay? As an animal, we evolved to consume most of our calories from meat and animals that we kill, okay? For many people today, that's not an option. They don't want to kill animals. But we didn't get here by not killing animals. For most of our evolution, we evolved to eat primarily fats. And you know, I've said before, you know, when we hunted, we didn't bother with the meat. Okay, we ate the internal organs because they were readily available, quick to harvest, easy if you got to move and get out of there. Okay, slip, take it, go. As opposed to what we do now, if you kill a deer, you know, you have to work with meat, and it's fine, but we don't need that much protein. What we really need is fat. The two essential nutrients, okay, are fats, we die without it, and protein, we die without it. Carbohydrates are not essential. As I've said before, the Inuit, the Eskimos, live for eons without any carbohydrates, all blubber, seals, fish, etc. Okay, you get all the vitamins, protein, everything you need from that. So why did we switch to grain? It's easy, right? You don't have to run around small tribes hunting animals. You don't have to move from place to place until you exhaust the supply of animals. You stay in one place, throw some seeds in the ground, sit around and wait for it to come up, harvest it, and you've got food for the winter, and then you can sit around and write poetry and make music and dance and have a good time. That's called civilization. Civilization basically grew up on grains. Right? So grains have been available to us for at least 4,000 or 5,000 years, and we can survive on them. Okay? There are whole cultures that eat nothing but grains and survive. Okay? What's the problem we're having now with eating grains? We're surviving, but we're surviving a little longer than we were kind of supposed to. Remember, as a species, we only have to survive long enough to propagate and raise the next generation. So stay alive for another 10 years, about 24, 25, we're fine. The guys, a couple seconds and we're done. The only way to keep the species alive is to have people surviving to the age of 25. What's the average age now? Men's about 79, I think, and women, how much? 85, somewhere in there. I haven't checked. 75. We're way beyond our propagation time. Some people even argued interesting theory that unlike, I think we're one of 3 animals, whales, humans, and one other mammal. This was just on the radio, but where women have menopause early on, whereas other mammals can continue to propagate much later in their lifetime. Well, the theory is that that's to make grandmothers. Okay? In other words, women who don't have their own children, who can take care of their children's children. Okay? Isn't that an interesting theory? Okay? That biologically we're set up for grandmothering. Okay? Well, come up with another explanation. So we're unique in a number of ways in terms of our survivability, how long we need to survive, what it's good for, and things of that sort. But now we're surviving so long that some of the illnesses that we would ordinarily not get, because we used to die by injury and illness and one thing or another by the age of 30 or 40. Now we're living 70, 80, 90, and what kind of illnesses do we get? High blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, okay? Cancer, there you go. Those are the big four to be concerned with. Well, every one of those is related to the fact that we've moved from eating meat and fats to eating grains, okay? And you know, if you want to argue the point, I'll be happy to talk with you afterwards, but there's a lot to support that. We obviously can't test that theory by taking 10,000 people and say you're going to eat meat and fats, but nothing else, and then we're going to take another population that's just going to eat grains. But we do that epidemiologically by looking at populations like the Inuit who only eat meat and fish and compare them to people like us who eat grains. How much heart disease, cancer, high blood pressure, and diabetes do the Inuit have? Pardon me? 0. Okay? None. All right? How much of those 4 diseases do we have? Yeah, all of them, and in spades, okay? So comparing those two populations, you kind of get the picture of what's going on. And by the way, the Inuit live, if they're not injured or are killed by influenza, infectious diseases, then they live as long as we do, okay? And they're very healthy in that. So that's one way of looking at that. So people have survived for long periods of time. Cultures have lived well on such things as raw beef and cow's blood. So as omnivores, you know, it's things that none of us would necessarily eat, but the things we're eating and so used to and love so much are the very things that are causing us difficulty, okay? So grains were developed, let me get over here where I can see what I'm talking about. They're recently developed, they're a food group that we didn't eat for 99.6% of our human existence, okay? They're brand new, all right? Human brain function and physical ability peaked just prior to the agricultural revolution. If you look at brain size development, for instance, we were highest just before we started agriculture. Since we started agriculture, it's been coming down, okay? Most people were shorter after agriculture were born. Their bodies showed evidence of mineral deficiencies, malnutrition, and infectious diseases. Here's the brain capacity going back, okay? And this is well documented in terms of what's happened with our evolution. So we think we're so smart that we invented agriculture and grew grain, right? Well, we were smart enough to sit on our duffs and have fun while the grain grew, but at the same time, it wasn't doing our bodies any good, okay? You all know the basics about grain, the difference between whole grain and refined grain. Grain has a germ, a nutrient-rich core, okay, that includes fat, the endosperm, the middle layer with carbs, along with some protein. You get some protein in whole grains. And then bran, which is the outer layer that contains B vitamins and trace minerals. Studies show that people who eat the most whole grains have a lower risk of obesity, heart disease, diabetes, colon cancer, and live longer, etc. So that's where you're getting the advice to eat whole grains. USDA tells us to eat how much of our diet should be whole grains? Anybody remember? I guess they're not doing a good enough job. Huh? Half of your should be whole grains. Of course, we know that very few people in this country do that. And I would say, if you're going to eat any grains at all, eat all whole grains. What's the problem with whole grains? Who here bakes? Anybody bake? I know Katie does. Okay. Do you use whole wheat flour?
Half and half.
Half and half. Why? What's wrong with whole wheat flour when you bake? It's grainy. It falls apart, doesn't have enough gluten in it, okay? It's difficult, it's heavy, people don't like it, all this kind of stuff. So even though we're supposed to eat it, it's not fun to work with. Well, the whole grains are difficult because they have all the stuff in it. Whereas the refined grains, we've taken out all the nutrients, leaving just this pulverized flour that has only carbohydrates in it. And carbohydrates, because they're refined and milled so fine, they're pulverized now, those turn directly into what in our mouth? Sugar. Okay? So when we eat those wonderful, nice cakes and cookies and everything made with nice refined flour, it's not just the sugar we've added to the flour that's in that, it's the flour as well as the sugar that's going to cause us problems. Okay? So that's one problem with eating whole grains. If you look at the processing, we can't digest grains raw, and you can't go out in the field and pick some wheat and eat it. What happens if you do? Anybody ever try it? See fields of wheat. Well, let's go out and have some wheat. You know, you can pick grapes and tomatoes. Why can't you pick wheat? What's the problem? If you ate it, what would happen? It's like straw. Well, it's the seeds and the wheat and the top part of the wheat. You get a stomach ache. You would have indigestion. Have a real problem with that. In fact, there are actually some poisons within that. Okay, that get neutralized when we refine the grain. Okay, and they have to be flaked, cracked, puffed, popped, or ground before they can be consumed. During the Industrial Revolution, we learned that whole grains go rancid faster than refined grains. If you have whole grain flour, it's going to go bad if you leave it out. Why? What's in the flour that's going to go bad? Remember pardon me? The fat, right. The fat, and that attracts what? Bugs, bacteria, mold, okay? Little amoeba type cells that get in there and say, hey, this is pretty good, I'm going to have some of this. And it grows really well. Well, that's a sign that it's good for you, okay? If you have food that molds, it goes moldy easily, that's what you should be eating, okay? Because it's exactly what your gut wants, okay? So don't be afraid of things that go moldy. Just eat them a little sooner than get to them before the mold gets to them, okay? So whole grain flour you have to store in the refrigerator to keep that mold from happening. It's a sign that there's good stuff in there. What about whole wheat flour? How long can you leave that out? Forever, right. Like the Twinkie, you know, that was out for 7 years, etc. Okay, that's a sign that it's an edible food-like substance, okay? It's not a food, okay? It's just sugar in another form, okay? It hasn't been broken down in your mouth and stomach into sugar, but there's no reason the bacteria are interested in it. They know what's good for them. They won't touch it, okay? Moving right along here, I could talk forever about this. We process grain by grinding it. Unfortunately, we grind it so small now, the tiny pulverized flakes, that we absorb it practically instantly when we digest it. So, some of the products we eat, any of this look familiar? Okay. I'm going to do a whole thing about cereals in a separate talk, but when we're talking about grains, the chief source of them is our breakfast. When did people start eating breakfast? I'm sorry, cereal for breakfast. Okay. So did people in the Middle Ages eat cereal for breakfast? No. Okay. When? Pardon me? When mothers went to work, right, to make it more convenient. Actually, cereals were begun in the mid-1800s, and I'll talk all about all of that. And we had to teach people to not have, basically, we used to eat for breakfast what we didn't eat for the supper the night before. Okay, there was no breakfast food. Okay, it was just what food you had available and didn't have to cook early in the morning. And then people would have some ham hocks and you know, put some eggs in, and you know, something you could fry up quickly and things of that sort. If you're going to cook breakfast at 4 or 5 in the morning before you go out and work in the field, that's what you ate. Cereal, no. There wasn't any to start with, and before Kellogg and Post, and I'll give you the whole history of that. But cereals are basically a substitute for what we should have been eating all along, and they're nothing but refined grains and sugars. Okay? So number one, cereals are off the list when it comes to low-carb eating. I talked to a group of seniors last week, and a woman said, well, what about cream of wheat? I have cream of wheat every morning. I said, well, take a look at the carbs on that. She said, you mean I can't have it? I said, no. She said, well, what's a good cereal? I said, there aren't any. I'm sorry. Cereal by definition is what you don't eat on a low-carb diet. Now, I said, okay, you know, if you don't need to lower your carbs that much, maybe you can fit it in. You know, we all have some carbs. If you want to spend your carb dollars on cereal, go ahead. But I don't think it's a particularly good use of those dollars. You can get much better food with much lower carbohydrate content than cereals. So you're all going to go home now and throw away all your cereals? Give it away to somebody. We have soup kitchens that love to take it. That's unfortunately what we give to people in soup kitchens. So cereal is a problem. You mentioned Perlmutter.
Yes.
Okay, there he is. Okay, that's Grain Brain, and there's several books on the whole issue of grain itself and what it does to people. And we could get into, you know, it's inflammatory, causes illnesses, it leads to cancers and high blood pressure and a number of other things as well. So besides it being a carbohydrate, there are other problems. And quite frankly, a good number of people are allergic to it, and many of them don't know it. Wheat Belly is the other one by Bill Davis, and again, a good book to read if you want to. What you need to do is read a couple of good books or good articles and scare yourself to death and say, I'm not touching that ever again. Okay. Once you know something about these foods, you begin to see them differently, okay? And what looks to be like a good thing turns out to be not so good once you know something about it. I'm about to finish up here, so Katie can get out here with the most important thing. That's our sample here. Rice isn't a whole lot better, okay? There's some nuance in terms of rice having some better qualities. Brown rice is a little better than white rice, etc. But in any quantity, rice is just carbohydrates. And whole grains, we talked about that. Difference between seeds and nuts, okay? Seeds and nuts are on a low carbohydrate diet, but largely because they're whole, okay? They have the fat that comes with them naturally, and they contain a lot of fiber. We're going to talk in a couple of weeks about fiber and why that's important. Remember, if you're calculating your carbohydrates on any food label, you're going to subtract the fiber from the carbohydrates. So if it's 10 carbohydrates and 3 grams of fiber, it's 7 net carbs. Okay, so that's what you need to do your tally. Some people asked last week, how many carbs should I eat? And I said, it all depends on your body. Your scale will tell you, cut the carbs, watch the scale. Cut the carbs, add the fat, watch the scale. Okay, it's pretty simple in that regard. You know, the more carbs you cut out, the more fat you eat, the more weight you will lose, and the more you will reach the point where your body is comfortable. Okay, and I'm not this. You're not going to disappear. Okay, believe me. But what you want to do is get to the place where your all your numbers, cholesterol, your blood pressure, your blood sugar are all in a good range. Okay, and your weight isn't problematic. It doesn't prevent you from getting some exercise, for instance. Okay, but if somebody's you know, we're all told to be overweight that's over a BMI of 25. What BMI did people live longest at? 27.
She's over the 25.
I'm 26. If you're 27, that's the sweet spot. So you're a little overweight, if you will. But that depends on whatever else is happening in your body. Okay, you can be vastly underweight, you're diabetic and have heart disease and high blood pressure. Okay, you can be skinny as a rail and have all of those things going on. That's not good. That's not healthy. So your weight is really not a terribly good indicator of what's going on in your body. You need to look at those other numbers as well. Okay, we'll talk later about cooking, baking, right, Katie?
Yeah.
And I'm about to turn this over to you. How many people have been on dietdoctor.com? The first one on the list? Good. Looking through it? Okay. It's got everything you need to know. You don't even need to listen to me. Just go on Diet Dr. Debbie. All kinds of recipes, and there's a whole section on diabetes. There's a whole thing on weight loss, lots of examples, everything you need. It's a wonderful website. Come on up here, Katie, and when did we started working together a couple of years ago, right? Yeah. So Katie's been the person that most people want to hear from, because I talk about science and she talks about food. Okay, so take it away.
Hi, so I know some of you, because you were here last year, but for those of you who are new, my name is Katie Wright here. I am by trade an addiction counselor, but by just my life, I just naturally kind of gravitated towards eating to low carb. It's where my body feels best. I've tried eating low fat, I've tried not eating, I've tried, pretty much everything that almost everyone else has pretty much tried. Low carb seems to work for me, so I stick with it. And I've played around with almost every recipe you can find on the internet. So I tested them all out, and I like to share them. So last year I was here every week. This year I'm going to be here a couple times to kind of help out. And I figured this week was a good week with the Super Bowl coming up because football food is, it's always good for snacking, and it's notoriously high in fat, right? And there are a lot of things that you can make that you can share with your friends that still are on a low-carb plan, so you don't feel cheated, that your friends aren't even going to know are low-carb. And you can have a completely satisfying experience and enjoy your day. The easiest one are chicken wings. As long as they're not breaded, you can put them in buffalo sauce. Buffalo sauce by recipe is hot sauce, butter, and vinegar. All low carb, right? So if you bake your wings, fry your wings, toss them in sauce, dip them in blue cheese dressing, perfectly low carb, no problem there. Garlic parmesan wings are another good one. That are delicious. So cook your wings and then toss them with some garlic, olive oil, and parmesan. You're good to go. You just need to be careful with like the sticky sweet sauces, like the teriyakis and things like that. Yeah, yeah. So that one's loaded with sugar. If you reduce your own Jack Daniel's whiskey and made your own sauce, but the one that they use is sugar. So I made, for everyone to try, I actually made, from the Frank's Red Hot website, the buffalo chicken dip. So that's over there for everyone to try. And then I made a guacamole, which guacamole is low carb too. And I have it with celery. So you figure you can do vegetables to dip with. And then you can have chips if you're having friends over as well. Just load your plate up with vegetables because they make a perfectly good vehicle for, yeah. And if you think about it, most dips are sour cream based or mayonnaise based, right? So onion dips, ranch dip, blue cheese dip, those are all low carb. And those are all the things on every other diet you've been on that you've been told you can't have. And go crazy. Because you can have them with this. Other things, things like queso, which is, melted cheese with cream and salsa added in, so a hot cheese dip, you can do that. It's just the tortilla chips you have to be careful with, because obviously those have carbs in them. But what are some other foods that you guys associate with, the Super Bowl and things? What is it? Pizza. Pizza. So, if you were to order out pizza, that's obviously going to have a lot of carbs. But with the different low-carb flatbreads that are out there, the Joseph one, the pita bread, you can use those or the flatbread, and you can make pizzas that way, like flatbread pizzas. And those are low-carb. You just spread the sauce, spread the cheese, and whatever toppings you want. And you can still have pizza and you can serve to the crowd. People don't really notice the difference. Yeah, and they can kind of fill that pizza void. Because that's a pretty big void. And you do miss that, being able to just call and have someone bring you the pizza. But it is pretty easy to make. Any other thing? Chili. If you do chili without beans, which is how they do it in Texas, which is just meat and peppers, perfectly fine. You know, you can put, there are some beans you can add to it. If you look at the carb count on beans, black soybeans are super low in carbs. Chickpeas aren't that high in carbs. So you can just look at the carb counts on the beans per serving and work it into whatever your limit is for the day. So you can have them. You know, it's got to be whatever works for you.
The red meat, black beans, no.
Black beans, if they work into your numbers, but they are a little bit high.
You said something about black
Soybeans.
They sell them in the market.
They're usually in like if you're in Stop and Shop, they're in like the wild harvest section. They're in the like organic section.
Okay.
But those, you can even make refried beans with those and they're pretty good. And they're super high in fiber and super low in carbs. And I do recommend them. But yeah, so things like guacamole, salsa is also very low in carbs, whether it's green salsa or red salsa. So, you know, you don't have to feel deprived with the Super Bowl coming up. Even on the beverage side of things, there are low-carb beers that are out there. Things like Michelob Ultra is like 1 carb, 1.5 carbs. Miller Lite is pretty low in carbohydrates. Wine is very low in carbohydrates. They do sell low-carb margarita mixes if you want to go with the mixed drink sort of thing. But also seltzer, diet soda. You know, so you can still enjoy your, big game party. You can do rum and Diet Coke. You can do vodka and soda, or go the non-alcoholic route as well with flavored seltzer, diet soda.
How would you make your meatballs?
Meatballs can be a little tricky because you can't do the bread and the milk. What I found works is I take the Joseph's bread and I soak it in cream, and I use that, and then I put Parmesan cheese, and so I do that, and then I use either the meatball mix, the blend that they have, that's the veal, the pork, and the beef, or I'll use the higher fat content beef, ground beef, that they have because you want as much moisture in there as you can. But yeah, meatballs can be a hard thing because you don't get that thing that you get with the bread. Yep. Yeah. But yeah, it did take me.
It's still great.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's with the low carb Joseph's, I was at least able to get some of the absorption that you get. Because my mother made meatballs with breadcrumbs. So.
Most people do.
Yeah. That one was a tough one. That one took a little trial and error. No, because breadcrumbs are dry bread, so it's like concentrated bread. So if you make your own using a lower carb bread.
Would you say about oatmeal?
Oatmeal is it's still a grain, so it still has a higher carb content. So you're better to use, you could do something like almond meal or flaxseed, which is better in terms of carb count. But again, you have to look at how much are you using in the recipe too, and see what the yield is with the recipe.
I use a lot of ground turkey.
Yes.
As opposed to beef.
Yeah, that's fine.
Ground turkey, the one that from Stop and Shop restaurant, very
Yes.
dry.
Yes.
So add olive oil to it.
Add olive oil on it. The thing with ground turkey is it needs moisture.
Yeah.
So with ground turkey, add vegetables to it.
Okay.
So add like peppers and onions, and saute them
Yep.
so that they're soft,
Okay.
and add olive oil. That's all going to bring moisture into it. You'll notice a world of difference.
So you can make meatballs using those vegetables in the ground turkey.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yep. And then you're both boosting the nutritional content when you add the vegetables too.
And is the dark meat of the turkey better than the white meat?
On low carb, you can go with the dark. You can go with
I
the dark.
found the ground turkey from Save-A-Lot
Yeah.
has the dark.
Yep.
I bought ground turkey from Stop and Shop, very, very lean.
Yeah.
Going back to the dark.
Yeah. Go to the dark.
Well, the darkest where the fat is, the fattest where the flavor is.
Yeah.
We have given up so much in terms of flavor by taking fat out of meat. It's crazy. So when you buy meat, buy the fattiest meat you can find. That's the stuff, the low end of cost. You know?
And eat your chicken skin.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, absolutely.
That's the best part of the chicken, like you get a rotisserie chicken, eat chicken skin.
How do you get the chicken skin to be crispy without?
If you roast it in the oven, you know, broil it, yeah.
No.
See, I don't eat the skin, I won't.
Yeah. That's the sort.
Well,
That's the
you've
best
got to get
part.
over a fat phobia.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, so just be
Ready?
question over here. There's plates, spoons, there's guacamole, it's very limey guacamole. I use,
Ma'am, I have a question.
yes.
When you use egg whites, like I make my meatballs with just egg whites.
You can use egg whites, but there's no reason to not use the yolks, but if you want to use the whites, you can.
I don't use bread, I just use eggs.
Yep,
I
you
make
can do
mine
that
with
if you want
garlic
to.
and Fresh garlic and onion.
Yep, you can do that. If you find that that gives you the moisture that you need to absorb.
It does.
Absolutely.
I make my meatballs too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Veggies in it.
yeah, hey, it's a good tip.
Okay, everybody ready to try some dip?
Yeah, everything's over there. Help yourselves. Like I said, the guacamole there, it only has the juice of 1 lime in it, but it has the zest of 2 limes, so it's very limey.
Do you have the recipes?
Buffalo chicken dip recipe went around. Guacamole, I just kind of throw together, but I can send it to Dave. Yeah, I love avocado.
I can't break that.